Sofia Calderón stood at the edge of the marble-tiled boardroom floor, gripping the edge of the polished mahogany table until her knuckles blanched white. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city's skyline glowed under the late afternoon sun. Inside, every pair of eyes and every camera was trained on her. With a single misstep, her mother's legacy could vanish into thin air, swallowed by the cold ambitions of her own blood. It had been only hours since Elena Calderón, matriarch, visionary founder, and Sofia's hero had collapsed at home. The doctors whispered of a stroke. The board whispered something far more sinister: a last-minute amendment to Elena's shareholder agreement, passed without Sofia's knowledge, transferred controlling interest in Calderón Industries to one Arturo Mora, Elena's younger brother, long estranged and never forgiven. Sofia's chest tightened. Arturo, wearing that smug half-smile, sat across from her, arms casually folded, as if he were merely at a family luncheon, not orchestrating a corporate coup. His defense lawyer, an ivory tower veteran with a silver tongue, tapped a stack of signed documents and declared, "Everything's above board." Others nodded in solemn agreement, poised to ratify his power grab in minutes. But above their legalese and well-rehearsed courtesy, Sofia heard the echo of Elena's final words: "Protect what we built." Those words, spoken with fading breath, were a benediction and a command. Now, as Arturo's faction prepared to seal her fate, Sofia felt something stir deep within her, a fierce refusal to watch her family's dream dissolve under a lie. How had it come to this? 7 years ago, she and her brother Mateo had watched their mother transform a humble textiles workshop into a global luxury powerhouse. They'd learned that success rose from unrelenting dedication, that loyalty was forged in fire, and that blood could be both bond and blade. But Mateo's sudden departure, maddened by a betrayal neither could admit, had left Sofia to shoulder the burden alone. She'd poured every ounce of her spirit into the company, earning respect and results, yet never quite Elena's confidence. Enter Arturo, the charming prodigal uncle who resurfaced just as Elena's health waned, and just as Sofia's influence peaked. Under the guise of concern, he'd insinuated himself into confidential meetings, whispered doubts about Sofia's leadership, and quietly won over a handful of key directors. By the time Sofia's alarm bells rang, the deed was done. Elena's signature, secured under duress, had bound Calderón Industries to Arturo's scheme. Now the board's gavel hovered over her future. A single vote would cement Arturo's control, evict Sofia from the helm of her own mother's legacy, and likely dismantle the brand that bore her family's name. Tears pricked her eyes, but she blinked them away. This was more than a corporate struggle. It was a fight for justice, for honor, and for every stitch of fabric her mother had ever woven. Drawing a steadying breath, Sofia addressed the room. Her voice, when it came, was quiet, but laced with steel. "Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard Arturo's counsel claim that our matriarch acted of her own free will, but they omit, and cannot explain, the context of that signature. My mother, having given her life to building this company, was weak that morning. She leaned on my arm, her hand trembling. She asked me to delay any shareholder vote until she saw me one last time. I wasn't there." A murmur rippled through the directors. Some exchanged uneasy glances, others clung to their preconceptions. Arturo's lawyer looked to Sofia, lips pressed tight, as if daring her to continue. Sofia let the silence stretch, then held up a sealed envelope. "This," she said, pacing slowly, "contains the video file from our family estate's security feed, unedited. It shows the notary arriving 30 minutes after the agreed-upon time. With a different document, it shows Arturo guiding my mother's hand over a blank page. And it shows her, bewildered, asking him, 'What am I signing?' before she passes out." With that, she clicked a remote. The screens around the room flickered to life, and the hush deepened into disbelief. Sofia's heart pounded, but her eyes burned with purpose. This was her moment. In the gleam of the projector's light, Arturo's smile faltered. The board members leaned forward, reading her mother's plea, and seeing the deceit laid bare. Above the sudden tumult, Sofia heard only one thing, the echo of her mother's final blessing, alive in her determination. When the last frame faded, Sofia raised her chin. Elena Calderón built this company on truth. I will not let her work be stolen by lies. The gavel hovered. Outside, the skyline remained serene, unaware that within these walls, a new generation of Calderón bloodlines was being forged in fire. Elena Calderón had always been a woman of vision. Born in a coastal artisan village in Spain, she watched her grandmother weave intricate shawls on an aging loom, each thread alive with history. At 17, Elena left for Barcelona, determined to transform those humble fabrics into global luxury. She scraped together savings from tutoring English, apprenticed under a master weaver, and fought through production delays and cash crunches until her first collection sold out in Paris. By 25, Elena returned home with orders from Milan, London, and New York. She set up a workshop in the old family olive mill, rehiring displaced weavers and teaching them modern techniques. Under Elena's stewardship, Calderón textiles became synonymous with timeless elegance, gracing runways and red carpets alike. Back in Madrid, Elena raised two children, Sofia and her elder brother, Mateo, with the same intensity. Weekdays, the siblings attended international schools. Weekends, they donned aprons in the dye vats, learning color theory and knotting. Over Sunday breakfasts, Elena taught them corporate ethics and the meaning of our family's promise, that no deal was worth compromising integrity. Your name is woven into every thread, she told Sofia one morning, tracing a delicate pattern on a scarf. And one day, you will guard this legacy. Those early lessons engraved themselves on Sofia's heart. She watched her mother negotiate favorable tariffs, champion fair wages, and fend off predatory investors with equal grace. Mateo, always the entrepreneur at heart, dreamed of tech-driven expansions and global franchising. Yet despite his ambitions, he respected Elena's insistence on artistry over mass-market shortcuts. When Elena converted the olive mill into a state-of-the-art atelier, she held a grand inauguration. The siblings cut the ribbon together, Elena beaming beside them, as press flashes painted their faces in gold. In that moment, Sofia felt the weight of inheritance and the spark of destiny. As Calderón textiles soared, so did tensions beneath its gleaming surface. Mateo, fueled by restless ambition, pushed for aggressive expansion, licensing the signature Calderón Aquasilk to fast fashion lines, opening branded boutiques in Dubai, signing tech partnerships for smart fabric wearables. Elena listened, weighing each proposal with diligence. Many aligned with her ethos, some she balked at as too commercial. Sofia, meanwhile, found her calling in operations, optimizing supply chains, securing high-profile collaborations, and mentoring young artisans. Where Mateo saw spreadsheets and merger targets, Sofia saw livelihoods and family traditions. Their debates, once good-natured, grew frosty. On Mateo's 28th birthday, Elena announced a major franchise rollout in Singapore. Mateo was ecstatic. Sofia noticed her mother's reluctance. Over the candlelight of a private dinner, Elena confessed, I fear losing control of what we built. Mateo bristled, interpreting caution as mistrust. Mother, without scale, our art will wither. We can't be a boutique relic forever. Sofia tried to mediate. We can pilot in key markets first, maintain quality controls. Mateo snapped, always with the stepping stones. When will you let us sleep? That night, Elena tucked Sofia into bed. Your brother loves this company as I do, she whispered, voice cracking. But passion must be guided by wisdom. Sofia nodded, tears in her eyes for a split family. 8 months later, Mateo shocked everyone by announcing his departure. He'd accepted a CEO role at a Silicon Valley textile tech startup, promising to return when Mother's company embraces the future. Elena, heartbroken, released him from the board. Sofia the sole heir apparent. In the months that followed, Sofia threw herself into leadership. She restructured management, implemented artisan equity shares, and oversaw a triumphant show at Milan Fashion Week. Yet every award felt hollow without Mateo's cheering grin. Whenever the atelier's door clicked closed behind a courier, Sofia half expected to see her brother striding in, only to face the empty corridor. For years, Arturo Mora hovered on the periphery of the Calderón legacy. Elena's younger brother, he'd pursued a career in finance, amassing wealth in private equity, funds Elena refused for lack of ethical alignment. Family gatherings in Madrid grew tense. Arturo's tailored suits and glib talk contrasted sharply with Elena's homespun elegance. After Mateo's departure, Arturo seized opportunity. He flew in for board meetings more frequently, offering strategic capital to fund Sofia's cautious expansion. He extolled Sofia's achievements, our golden girl of operations, while quietly whispering doubts in the ears of older directors. Over after-meeting dinners, he flattered them with insider tips and promising side ventures under his own investment vehicles. Sofia noticed subtle shifts. Meeting minutes lost minutes after she reviewed them. Proposals she championed redirected to Arturo's innovation committee. Key suppliers contacted her uncle first. She flagged concerns with the company secretary, who frowned but claimed ignorance of any foul play. The first direct attack came via email, a cleanly forged resolution, apparently signed by Elena in her Madrid residence, authorizing Arturo to appoint 2 new non-family directors with full voting rights. Hours later, press releases touted a $150 million investment from the Mora Equity Partners Fund, hinting at executive changes. The boardroom buzzed with speculation, some upbeat, many apprehensive. Sofia confronted Arturo in Elena's Barcelona office. The room, adorned with family portraits and Picasso prints, felt smaller than she remembered from childhood. Arturo leaned back, fingers steepled. "Dear niece," he said, voice oily, "this is merely modernization. Your mother signed off. She trusts me to preserve her vision." Sofia's stomach churned. "I'll need to see the signed document," she replied. Arturo handed her a crisp copy. The signature matched Elena's, but the date was 3 days after Elena's reported hospitalization. Suddenly, alarm bells rang in Sofia's mind. Arturo smiled, fingers tapping. "I've already filed it with the registrar. Any further inquiries can go through my attorneys." As Sofia left, her heart pounded. She sensed a trap springing shut around Calderón Textiles, and around Elena herself. If she didn't act, the empire her mother spun from thread and dream would unravel under her uncle's calculated predations. Sofia paced the length of her mother's sunlit library, its floor-to-ceiling shelves lined with leather-bound ledgers and artisan sketchbooks. In less than 24 hours, Arturo's forged resolution and emergency appointments would strip Calderón Industries of its heritage and of Sofia's birthright. She needed help, and there was only one person she trusted more than herself, her brother, Mateo. Years had passed since they last spoke. Their final conversation, terse and bitter, ended with slammed doors and a promise never to return. Yet now, watching Arturo's scheme unfold, so reminiscent of the very reckless expansion Mateo once championed, Sofia realized she had no choice. She composed a measured message. "Mateo, I need your help. Uncle Arturo has taken control of the board through fraudulent means. Mom's health is critical, and I fear she cannot fight this. Please come home. We cannot save Calderón Industries without you. Sofia." She sent it at dawn and waited, every tick of the grandfather clock amplifying her anxiety. By midday, there was no reply. She called his office in San Francisco, but reached only a voicemail. Panic gripped her. Had she burned this bridge beyond repair? Late that evening, as the Barcelona sky deepened to indigo, her phone buzzed. "On a flight now, ETA 48 hours. It was Mateo. Relief and guilt warred inside her. They had so much to forgive, and so little time. On the plane, Mateo stared out the window at the setting sun. remembering childhood summers spent chasing cicadas in the orchard behind the olive mill. He recalled Elena's proud tears when he announced the franchise plan, tears he'd misinterpreted as disappointment. Now, knowing his ambition had left Sofia alone to defend their mother's life's work, he felt a stab of responsibility. By the time he landed in Madrid, Sofia had arranged a discreet meeting at their grandmother's old manor, neutral ground where they'd once played among orange trees. When Sofia emerged, her sharp silhouette backlit by moonlight, Mateo felt both the ache of distance and the warmth of reunion. "Sis," he whispered, and she closed the gap between them in a single stride. They embraced, tentatively at first, then with the tangled relief of two halves made whole. Sofia pressed Mateo's arm. "It's worse than I feared. Arturo's men control the board, the notary. Hell, even the security cameras." Mateo studied her, the steely confidence he remembered tempered now by visible fatigue. "Show me," he said. In the candlelit study, Sofia laid out the timeline. Arturo's routine board appearances, the forged signature, the registrar filings, and the chilling proof of Elena's coerced consent. Mateo's jaw clenched. "He used Mom's love for us against her," Sofia said, voice trembling. "He convinced her he was the only one who could protect the company while robbing her of control." Mateo took a deep breath, shaking off the memory of failed promises and professional grudges. He met Sofia's eyes. "We finish this, together." With Mateo back by her side, Sofia felt renewed resolve. They needed evidence, not just of forgery, but of Arturo's broader network of influence. If they could expose his undue sway over key directors, they could rally enough votes to reverse his takeover. They began by re-engaging Marisol Vega, the private investigator Sofia had retained in Section 4. Marisol had compiled dossiers on Arturo's shell companies, offshore accounts, and even discreet social outings with board members. Now she needed more. The handshake deals Arturo cut at closed-door dinners, the text chains where he dangled equity stakes, and the signed NDAs under which his allies pledged silence. Sofia and Mateo convened with Marisol in a nondescript cafe near Puerta del Sol. Over steaming cortados, Marisol slid a manila folder across the table. "I've corroborated Arturo's contacts with 4 directors, 2 through financial incentives, 1 through personal favors, and 1 by threatening legal action over an alleged ethics violation." Inside the folder lay bank statements showing wire transfers from an account in Antigua to the personal accounts of directors Ruiz and Gomez, a photo of Arturo and director Navarro sharing a private yacht-side dinner, and screenshots of Navarro's calendar blocking Arturo's strategy session mid-board recess. Mateo flipped through the exhibits. "This is gold, but to win back the board, we need a smoking gun, something Arturo can't disavow." Marisol nodded. "I've arranged for an audio recording, captured at Navarro's gala fundraiser last week." Arturo was explicit. "Once I hold half the shares, your seat and dividends are secured. Just a matter of votes." Snap the recording, and the board can't ignore it. Sofia exhaled a shaky breath. "Set it up!" Late that night, Marisol and a small team concealed a micro-recorder in Navarro's study during a supposedly private strategic review. They monitored the audio feed remotely. When Arturo's voice floated through, "Once we ratify Tuesday, your path to co-CEO is clear. Remember who did you this favor." Marisol hit save. The next morning, Sofia and Mateo met with Elena's longtime legal counsel, Juan Castillo, in his stately law office. Juan reviewed the new evidence, eyebrows rising. "This isn't just forgery, it's corporate conspiracy. We can file an injunction to block the vote, presenting both the forged resolution and this recording as prima facie evidence of undue influence." He drafted the paperwork on the spot. A motion for a preliminary injunction, a request for expedited discovery, and a demand for the board to suspend any vote on Tuesday's emergency session. That afternoon, Sofia sent an urgent email to all board members, accompanied by a personal note. "Dear members of the board, you have been provided incomplete information regarding the recent shareholder resolution. I now have incontrovertible proof that the decision was procured through undue influence and coercion by Mr. Arturo Mora. I urge you to review the attached evidence before the scheduled vote. Our legacy and our legal standing depend on acting with full transparency. Respectfully, Sofia Calderón. Her message landed like a bombshell. Within hours, the board's scheduled agenda shifted from ratification of amendments to review of recent resolutions under question. Arturo's camp, sensing trouble, requested a closed session to strategize. Sofia and Mateo exchanged determined glances. The gauntlet had been thrown, and now the real fight for Calderón Industries had begun. Tuesday dawned crisp and overcast. Sofia arrived early at the Calderón Tower's boardroom, Mateo at her side, carrying two leather binders bulging with documents. The massive table gleamed under recessed lighting. Portraits of Elena and the founding artisans loomed from the walls. Arturo sat at the opposite end, flanked by his legal team and a handful of allies who still doubted Sofia's claims. Chairperson Raquel Herrera called the room to order. In light of new evidence, we will first hear the motion to temporarily suspend all shareholder votes pending further review. Sonia Fuentes, a longtime director and neutral party, rose in support. Arturo's lawyer objected, citing procedural irregularities, but Juan Castillo responded with rapid quotations of corporate bylaws and civil procedure. A hush fell as directors examined the records. Sofia seized the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand the gravity of this request, but consider, Elena Calderón built this company on integrity. If we sanction a resolution procured by coercion, we undermine every value she instilled. Worse, we set a precedent that power trumps principle. She placed both binders before Raquel. Here is the forensic analysis of the forged document, the audio recording proving our claims, and affidavits from Marisol Vega's team. I ask you to read them carefully. Arturo's face darkened. He gestured to his allies. This is theatrics. We're being manipulated by an embittered heir who refuses to accept my expertise. Mateo rose, voice low but firm. Uncle Arturo, professional expertise isn't a blank check to weaponize family bonds. If you cared about Calderón's future, you'd have respected Elena's succession plan. Instead, you violated it. The room crackled with tension. Some directors shifted uneasily, recalling Arturo's late-night phone calls and unexplained procurement deals. Others glanced at the pile of evidence, now impossible to ignore. After heated debate, Raquel called for a vote on the injunction. Hands rose one by one, 6 in favor, 3 opposed, and 2 abstentions. The motion passed. Arturo's shoulders slumped, though his mask of composure remained. This isn't over, he hissed as he gathered his papers. Sofia exhaled, relief flooding her. She had won the first skirmish, but she knew Arturo would not concede easily. Already, whispers circulated of counter-litigation, leverage of remaining allies, and threats of regulatory complaints. Later that afternoon, Sofia and Mateo regrouped with Juan and Marisol in Elena's refurbished atelier. Elena's health was stable, but still fragile. Sofia knelt beside her mother, hand in hand, whispering the board's decision. Elena's eyes, once clouded, gleamed with pride. You and your brother, together, you are stronger than you know. Mateo squeezed Sofia's shoulder. We did it. Sofia nodded, heart pounding. This is just the beginning. Arturo will strike backhand. Marisol appeared at the atelier door, tablet in hand. You need to see this. She played a viral news clip. Reporters outside the boardroom, snippets of Arturo's allies denouncing Sofia as power-hungry, and claims of family drama spilling into corporate governance. The story was trending. Sofia clenched her jaw. Then we fight on 2 fronts, boardroom and public opinion. Mateo met her gaze. And we won't back down. In that golden atelier, where artisans once wove the first Calderón silks, Sofia and Mateo braced themselves. Their family's legacy had survived the first blow, But the battle for its soul was far from over. The victory of Tuesday's injunction felt exhilarating until Sofia discovered that one of her closest confidants had been feeding Arturo inside information. It was Isabella Cortez, the company's chief communications officer, who had phoned Sofia just after the board vote to offer congratulations and commiseration. Isabella had been by Sofia's side since Elena's health crisis began drafting press releases, coordinating interviews, and managing delicate stakeholder relationships. Sofia trusted her implicitly. Yet, behind the scenes, Isabella had responded to Arturo's clandestine overtures, promises of lucrative consulting contracts and equity stakes in Arturo's investment vehicle. Isabella had rationalized the betrayal as hedging her bets to protect Calderón Industries from total collapse. In her mind, aiding Arturo would spare the company from a protracted power struggle. Late one night, Mateo and Sofia found definitive proof. Marisol's team intercepted an email thread between Isabella and Arturo's strategist. In it, Isabella provided advance copies of Sofia's board submissions, shared her schedule of witness interviews, and even suggested framing tactics to discredit evidence of forgery. The subject line read chillingly, "Safe passage, Elena's reputation." Sofia sat at her desk in the atelier, hands shaking as she scrolled through the correspondence. Each word from Isabella felt like a cut. The persona of loyalty, the warm laughter, and late-night strategy sessions, they had all been a facade. When Mateo saw Sofia's ashen face, he peered over her shoulder. "No," he whispered. "It can't be." "It is," Sofia breathed, voice hollow. She closed her laptop and pressed her palms against her eyes. "I can't believe I didn't see it." The next morning, Sofia asked Isabella to meet her in Elena's private sitting room. The room was lined with tapestries depicting the olive groves where the Calderón legacy began, a poignant backdrop for the confrontation to come. Isabella arrived punctually, as always, offering a practiced smile. Sofia motioned to a pair of armchairs by the window. "Thank you for coming," Sofia began, voice measured. Isabella sat, confident as ever. Sofia slid the printed email thread across the mahogany table. "I received this last night." Isabella's smile faltered. She picked up the top sheet, eyes scanning the contents. Sofia, please understand. I only wanted to—" "Why?" Sofia's voice cracked. "After everything we've been through, you risked Elena's company, our mother's reputation, and our family's legacy." Isabella looked away. "Arturo offered me a seat on his strategic advisory board. He said he could protect Elena from prolonged stress. By stealing control from her daughter?" Sofia slammed her hand on the table. "You call this protection?" Tears welled in Isabella's eyes. "I thought I was helping. I thought if he controlled the board, he'd manage the power struggle quietly, keep the company stable so Elena could recover." Sofia's heart pounded with betrayal. "You became the very mole who nearly destroyed us." Isabella stifled a sob. "I'm sorry. I can hand over everything. Passwords, contacts." Sofia rose, pacing. "Sorry isn't enough. You must testify before the board, admit your wrongdoing, and resign." Her voice trembled with anger and sorrow. "You're no longer welcome here." Isabella nodded, resigned. She stood, shoulders slumped. "I understand." As Isabella left, Sofia sank into a chair, head in hands. Mateo knelt beside her. "I'm sorry you had to face that." Sofia exhaled, fatigue and grief mingling in her chest. "Arturo's reach is deeper than we imagined. He corrupted someone I trusted more than anyone." Mateo placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "We'll survive this too. We're stronger than deception." Yet in that moment, Sofia felt unnervingly alone. If her own team could betray her, how could she ever be sure who remained loyal? The first taste of victory now turned bitter, leaving a hollow ache in its wake. With Isabella's betrayal laid bare, Sofia and Mateo knew they had to regain momentum, and fast. Arturo would capitalize on any sign of disarray. They needed a decisive blow to rally the wavering directors and restore public confidence. Their strategy hinged on two objectives: expose the full extent of Arturo's manipulations, not just the forged resolution and confidential recordings, but the network of favors he exchanged to secure votes; reinforce the Calderón legacy by demonstrating a unified front and clearly articulating a vision for the company's future under Sofia's leadership. Against Marisol's advice to keep the remaining evidence under wraps, Sofia decided to go public. She arranged a press conference at the Barcelona Atelier, the birthplace of Calderón's Renaissance. Under a canopy of draped silks and artisan looms, reporters gathered, cameras poised. Sofia stepped to the podium, flanked by Mateo and Juan Castillo. A hushed anticipation fell over the crowd. Clad in a tailored navy suit, Sofia's calm visage belied the storm within. "Thank you for being here," she began, voice unwavering. "Today I present new evidence of a campaign of undue influence and deception orchestrated by Mr. Arturo Mora and his associates." She clicked a remote. Behind her, screens displayed financial trails, diagrams showing Arturo's wire transfers to director accounts, correspondence chains, emails where directors acknowledged bribes and favors, testimony excerpts, Isabella's signed confession, and Navarro's recorded admissions. Gasps filled the room. Reporters scribbled furiously. Sofia continued, "This is not just a family dispute. It's an affront to every Calderón employee, artisan, and shareholder who believed in our values. I call on all stakeholders to demand accountability." A journalist raised a hand. "Ms. Calderón, are you seeking a national inquiry? Could this scandal force regulatory intervention?" Sofia nodded. "I've informed the Securities Commission and requested an expedited review. We must ensure corporate governance safeguards are upheld." The wave of public support, amplified across headlines and social media, put intense pressure on the board. Several directors who had hesitated now faced scrutiny from their own constituencies. Under threat of reputational damage, directors Ruiz and Gomez publicly recanted their support for Arturo, issuing statements of apology. Sofia called an emergency virtual board meeting. Arturo's faction had dwindled. Only a handful remained loyal. Sofia opened with a concise presentation. The Calderón vision was never about consolidation of power for personal gain. It was about community, craftsmanship, and shared prosperity. Today, we must choose whether to continue a path of deceit or to recommit to our founding principles. She proposed a revised slate of directors, each new candidate vetted for integrity and artistic passion. She emphasized diversity, global market expertise, and deep ties to local artisan communities. One by one, the remaining directors voiced support. Director Navarro, shamed by the leaked recording, admitted his errors and requested rehabilitation by chairing a new ethics committee under Sofia's co-leadership. When the vote concluded, Sofia's proposed board members were approved unanimously, effectively ousting Arturo's appointees and neutralizing his influence. In the days that followed, the Securities Commission launched a formal probe into Calderón Industries' governance. Regulatory notices cited the public evidence and sought further documentation of Arturo's actions. Arturo himself faced potential criminal charges for forgery and conspiracy. Media coverage praised Sofia and Mateo's leadership. Editorials in the Financial Tribune and Global Business Review hailed the Calderón comeback as a landmark in corporate accountability. Social media buzz, #Calderón Integrity, trended among business circles, elevating Sofia as a paragon of ethical leadership. Elena, convalescing but alert, watched the news with tears in her eyes. When Sofia visited, Elena grasped her daughter's hand. "You've not only defended our legacy, but strengthened it." Sofia leaned forward, heart full. "We did it together." Mateo joined them, the siblings united at last. Where once ambition had driven them apart, now shared purpose forged an unbreakable bond. The Calderón name, tempered by trial, gleamed brighter than ever. With the board's loyalty secured and regulatory forces engaged, Sofia and Mateo looked ahead to rebuilding and growth. Their triumph, however, came with the knowledge that vigilance would be needed to guard against future threats. The morning of the emergency board votes dawned gray and restless. Calderón Towers buzzed with muted tension as directors and council filed into the grand conference hall. Word had spread that Arturo was mounting one final gambit, a last-minute petition to the commercial court requesting an injunction preventing any changes to the board until his appeal on the forgery findings was heard. If granted, it would indefinitely freeze all governance reforms and cement his hold on the company. Sofia arrived early, flanked by Mateo, Juan Castillo, and Marisol Vega. The leather-bound binders of incontrovertible evidence lay before her: notarized affidavits, audio files, financial trails, and board testimony. Even with the public victory behind them, this legal maneuver required the board's swift, decisive response. At precisely 9 a.m., Chairperson Raquel Herrera called the session to order. Arturo, eyes flicking between his counsel and the door, rose to speak first. "Esteemed colleagues, I ask for your patience and fairness. I have filed an appeal challenging the lower court's injunction, claiming procedural irregularities and insufficient evidence. Pending the appeal, the commercial court may rule to maintain the status quo. To protect the company from uncertainty, I request that the board defer any vote today until the court issues its directive." A murmur rippled through the room. Some directors exchanged anxious glances. Others, fortified by conscience, steeled themselves. Sofia rose to rebut. "Uncle Arturo, your appeal deliberately weaponizes procedural delays to subvert the will of this board and the will of our matriarch, Elena Calderón. We have repeatedly presented clear evidence of fraud and undue influence. To delay justice is to perpetuate injustice." She clicked her remote. On the screen appeared timeline overlay, the key dates of Elena's hospitalization, the forged resolutions filing, and the appeal notice. Judge's finding excerpt, language from the commercial court judge, explicitly stating uncontested prima facie evidence of forgery. Email from Arturo's counsel, acknowledging the reliance on procedural tactics rather than substantive rebuttal. As Sofia spoke, directors leaned forward, recalling the months of turmoil. Mateo stepped forward next. "We stand at a crossroads. Do we allow corporate manipulation to dictate our destiny? Or do we honor the Calderón values entrusted to us? I motion that we proceed with today's vote on the governance reforms, regardless of external appeals, under our bylaw provision 7.3, which grants the board final authority on shareholder resolutions when evidence of fraud exists." Arturo's counsel objected, raising technical points about jurisdiction. Juan Castillo intervened, citing Article 7.3 verbatim and prior case law, confirming the board's right to act when fraud is evident, even amid pending appeals. Chairperson Herrera banged her gavel for order. She called for a vote on Sofia's motion to override any procedural injunction and proceed immediately with the governance reforms. Hands raised steadily, 7 in favor, 2 opposed, 3 abstained. The motion passed. A hush descended. Arturo's eyes narrowed. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He slumped into his seat, defeated. Herrera nodded gravely. "The board affirms its commitment to the Calderón legacy. We proceed with the vote on the governance reforms." As the clerk tallied the ballots, Sofia felt her pulse race. The final count, 9. Yes, 2 no, and 1 abstention. The reforms passed by an overwhelming margin. Arturo's last-ditch strategy had failed. Arturo rose, gathering his materials. He shot Sofia a venomous glance. "This isn't over," he hissed. Sofia met his gaze unflinchingly. "It is for today." As Arturo exited, security escorted him through a side door. Whispers followed him down the marble corridors. Talk of legal suits, regulatory probes, and the tarnishing of his reputation. For the first time, Sofia sensed the full weight of their victory and the confidence to defend it. With Arturo's influence finally broken, Calderón Industries embarked on a new era of stability and integrity. Sofia and Mateo convened the freshly reconstituted board one last time to formalize the reforms and chart a strategic vision. Ratification of reforms, dual notary requirements, rotating ethics committee, and enhanced transparency protocols were officially enshrined in the bylaws. Independent oversight. An external governance advisor was appointed to conduct quarterly reviews, ensuring compliance and deterring future power plays. Franchise reassessment. Plans for the Singapore franchise were modified to include strict quality control measures and artisan profit sharing, honoring Elena's original intent. Board members, once divided, now stood united. Director Navarro, whose conscience compelled him to switch sides, announced the creation of a mentorship fund for underrepresented artisans, an initiative he pledged to chair. In a private ceremony in the atelier, Elena, pale but radiant, passed the symbolic first loom to her children. Sofia and Mateo knelt beside her. Elena, my children, today you have honored our family name and protected generations of artisans. I couldn't be prouder. Mateo, together we will grow your vision, carefully, responsibly, and with the same heart you taught us. Sofia, Mother, with your blessing, we promise to ward off any threat, be it family or foe, and keep Calderón's promise alive. They embraced in a warm, tearful tableau, siblings reconciled, mother assured. The atelier's soft light illuminated their unity, forging a bond tougher than any corporate contract. Over the following weeks, media applause. Profiles in leading business publications celebrated the Calderón saga as a masterclass in crisis leadership. Employee morale. Artisan workshops buzzed with renewed enthusiasm, absentee rates fell, and productivity soared. Market confidence. Investors praised the strengthened governance, and the company's share price climbed steadily. At a gala celebrating the 30th anniversary of Calderón Textiles, Sofia, now officially CEO, addressed the guests. Our journey proves that legacy isn't inherited. It's forged by every decision we make. We will continue weaving beauty into the world, guided by truth, loyalty, and the spirit of collaboration. Thunderous applause followed as silks and suedes draped models on a runway behind her, a testament to the enduring power of Elena's vision, carried forward by her children. Real-life suggestion and advice. Poison pill provisions. What it is. A shareholder rights plan that triggers when any one investor buys a predetermined percentage of shares, diluting the hostile party's stake. Why it works, it makes an unfriendly takeover prohibitively expensive without board approval. Staggered board terms. What it is. Directors' terms are divided into classes, so only a fraction of the board is up for election each year. Why it works. It prevents an aggressor from quickly replacing the entire board. Dual-class share structure. What it is. 2 classes of shares, one with enhanced voting rights held by founders or family, the other publicly traded with limited votes. Why it works. It preserves control in the hands of the founding family, even if they own a minority of economic shares. Advance notice bylaws. What it is. Requires any director nominations or shareholder proposals be submitted within a specified window before the annual meeting. Why it works. It blocks last-minute surprise candidates and ensures the board has time to vet them. Fair price provisions. What it is. Mandates any change of control transaction be approved by a supermajority and at a price no lower than a board-determined fair value. Why it works. It prevents lowball offers and encourages meaningful negotiation. Tip: work with counsel to tailor these tools to your jurisdiction and corporate charter. Overuse can alienate investors, so balance defensive mechanisms with transparent governance. Governance safeguards from an M&A expert. Regular board refreshment and skills matrix. Implementation. Conduct annual assessments of directors' skills, industry expertise, financial acumen, legal knowledge, and recruit to fill gaps. Benefit: a diverse, well-qualified board is less susceptible to undue influence and better equipped to oversee management. Independent committees. Implementation: Establish fully independent audit, compensation, and governance committees, chaired by non-family, non-executive directors. Benefit: they provide objective oversight of financial controls, executive incentives, and board succession planning. Shareholder engagement programs. Implementation: host regular town halls, webcasts, and surveys for major shareholders to voice concerns and ask questions. Benefit: early detection of dissent reduces the chance of surprise, hostile moves and builds trust. Enhanced disclosure policies. Implementation: adopt side-by-side reporting where management commentary is published alongside external auditor notes and require quarterly governance updates. Benefit: transparency deters backroom dealings and reassures stakeholders of board integrity. Succession planning and emergency protocols. Implementation: draft a formal succession charter detailing process for replacing executive or board members, including interim leadership plans and emergency convening rules. Benefit: clear protocols ensure continuity in crisis and limit maneuvering opportunities for opportunistic actors. Tip: an independent governance advisor can conduct regular health checks and stress test your defenses. Think of it as an annual financial audit for your board dynamics. As Calderón Industries basks in renewed stability, an encrypted dossier arrives on Sofia's desk. No return address, no watermark, only one line in elegant script. Sisterly bonds can be deadlier than corporate wars. Attached is a single image: two identical women standing back to back in a moonlit alley, one with emerald green eyes, the other with storm gray. Beneath it, a cryptic note: they share your blood and your name, yet only one can sit at the table. Sofia's heart skips. Memories flood back to a dusty family album. Her grandmother's twin sisters, separated at birth amid scandalous whispers of betrayal. Could the story be repeating itself? Illicit sisterhood beckons next. Sibling rivalry. Reborn. Twins torn between loyalty and envy in a high-stakes inheritance battle. Forbidden alliances. One sister's secret pact with a ruthless board member to secure power. Twisted betrayals. Hidden parentage. Secret offspring. And the revelation that the greatest threat may come from blood. Closer than you think. The echo of Elena's final blessing still lingers in Sofia's mind. But as the moon casts long shadows across the Calderón legacy, she realizes the bonds of sisterhood may prove more treacherous than any boardroom coup. Next up, illicit sisterhood, where love, lies, and lineage collide in a race for control that begins at your doorstep.